and gentlemen, as always, I'm your host, Airsoft Owl. Another day, another pitch meeting. And believe me when I say that... today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about, of course, Worm and Call of Duty. Because, of course, I fell down the rabbit hole of reading Worm fics, and when looking at Google suggestions, one of them was, in fact, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare Taylor. And believe me when I say that when I went looking, there was not a single one of them. So I thought I'd go ahead and make a pitch meeting video about it with two different scenarios of how Taylor triggers. And how Taylor triggers. So, ladies and gentlemen, how does this go down, you're asking? Well, I'm happy you asked. You see, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare is probably one of the only Call of Duty games of the newer franchise that I actually did enjoy, legitimately. I am going to, of course, dive into Infinite Warfare in the near future and give that a go, probably on my break in August. And believe me when I say that I will be doing all I can, especially with the potential and lots of stuff for it to be in the military tailor category. Yes, that's an actual category. It really is. And, of course... Shoot! Stand! Still! If you couldn't tell, we got a little guest, one of Merc's creations, who sadly will be a part of this fucking video. So... moving on. So how does this all happen? You might be asking. Well, that's a good question there, Jimmy. I see you, Jimmy. I know you're there, Jimmy. And I'm happy to say that, unlike most, this one, of course, is, again, one falls into the military tailor category. And I have brought this idea, of course, to Ander and Merc, who have been a little bit trepidatious about it, although Merc did get a little chuckle out of some ideas and scenarios. So we're going to go with those scenarios, ladies and gentlemen. That, of course, being, what would happen if Taylor triggered and it changed the world? In a sense that there's always been Atlas. Atlas has always been around. The Atlas Corporation and Atlas PMCs have always been a part of the world. And Taylor had family such as Uncle Irons and Cousin Will, both of which have helped shape her mentality to kind of see the world as it is, especially Brockton Bay, her home of corruption and ineptitude. Now you're probably thinking, how could this change the world exactly? Well, it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Especially when you start really thinking about it, and I mean it, you start thinking about it and you start realizing, okay, this idea could actually be good on a multitude of levels. Be it political, be it economical, be it espionage, especially the dynamics of the capes, and of course the villain crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, here's that scenario. Picture, if you will, the idea that Taylor, well, first off, I'm going to give you two different trigger events. One that they agreed on, and I begrudgingly agree on, that this would happen at least. The first one being, of course, the locker incident, the one that caused her powers to kind of happen in the first damn place. The other one being, of course, one that I thought of that has actually been used a couple of times in many other fanfics that I've actually read. That being, she triggers during a gang war. However, that one I'll let you decide yourself. Instead, I'll stick with the locker incident. Taylor, of course, being bullied, and I can relate, sadly, is bullied by, of course, 3 demented bitches. And when she's shoved in the locker, she has, of course, triggered her powers. The world changes, and people, like I said, have always known the Atlas Corporation. The Atlas Corporation has always existed. They've always operated in Africa, trying to help out in stabilizing. They've always worked in the Middle East, helping stabilize it. They've even helped during Endbringer attacks, mostly medical, because unless you're part of the Atlas Corporation protection plan, you don't get military protection of Atlas-grade technology. Instead, all you get is the basic medical coverage. Then again, really thinking about current-day insurance companies, and you guys can agree, that's kind of normal if you really think about it. Sad to say. But I'll let people gripe about insurance companies in the comments section. I'm not one for insurance companies. I just try to live my life the way I can. So, as this is going on, mind you, the trigger happens. And Taylor happened to have had a watch on her wrist. A watch that activated and sent a signal to the Atlas Corporation. For you see, in this new timeline created for Taylor's trigger, Jonathan Irons was her uncle. In fact, he was Danny Herbert's brother. He served in the army, and he served his country with pride and dignity. His son joined the Marines, and he serves his country with pride and dignity, even though he wanted to get away from his father. But here's the thing. Jonathan Irons died mysteriously. People believe he just died of a simple heart attack. But in the world of capes, who can do many things, things that could be considered acts of God, would it be so conspiratory to believe that Jonathan Irons was actually assassinated? But, unlike Will, who, of course, would not take up his father's mantle, only left one other person for whom he saw as a actual good successor. Taylor Herbert, his niece, becoming the youngest CEO in all of history in the likes of Bruce Wayne, the richest girl, going up there with the nice 1%. A corporation and PMC company, a private fucking army at her command. Yet, everyone agrees, even the villains, do not mess with Atlas. You leave Atlas alone and their assets, they leave you alone. Even those such as Hookwolf and other battle maniacs are actually smart enough to know that if you piss off Atlas, they're gonna come down on you like a righteous fucking hammer of God. Like I'm about to do with this little goddamn mix. Merc, I swear to God, if you don't get this bitch out of here, I'm gonna shoot her! Of course, that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. For when the trigger happened, and like I said, with the watch, it activated a distress signal. It monitors Taylor's health and vitals, and anytime those vitals go up to stressful levels, and essentially hit those marks, well, that activates a protocol in Atlas's computers, signaling for a hot extraction of a VIP, the CEO of Atlas Corporation. Over the skies of Brockton Bay, VTOL warships literally beamline to Winslow High. Atlas PMCs are deploying en masse. Students are panicking slightly, with Atlas announcing to them all present, Atlas, move out of the way! Move out of the way! Until finally rushing to the locker, breaking out Taylor thanks to their exoskeletons, and immediately putting her on a stretcher. Capes, of course, do arrive on scene along with PRT, but upon seeing the Atlas Corporation logo, immediately stand down, even being ordered to stand down. Armsmaster even begrudgingly arguing with Consul, basically asking, what is going on? Do we go in? Do we interfere? Being told, even threatened, that if they do not stand down, they will be fucking fired. Atlas Corporation PMCs, led by Gideon, rushing Taylor out on a stretcher, is literally contacting Atlas HQ, telling them they have an injured VIP. And they're coming in hot. Prep medical. Danny Herbert, her father, is immediately, of course, shocked at a line of black sedans, SUVs, along with armored personnel, or at least armed personnel, coming out and immediately announcing him that something has happened and they need to move him to safety. Basic Secret Service or any sort of very good private security protocols, immediately moving everyone of importance out of an area that may be dangerous or may not be dangerous, immediately moving them to Atlas HQ, and of all places, not at the ocean, but out in Nevada. Now you're probably wondering why Nevada. Well, I kind of liked the idea of them having an Atlas Corporation HQ out in the ocean, but then I realized, no, there's a kaiju motherfucker out in the ocean. So Nevada would have been a much more smarter choice. As to where in Nevada, I'm gonna let you guys decide and have a little fun with your conspiracy theories. But they're moved to the Nevada HQ, and immediately Taylor is put under sedation and even begins operations. Her wounds infected. Honest to God, rapid infections, blood infections. She is just basically hanging on for dear fucking life. And Atlas is gonna save her life. They may have failed Jonathan Irons, but they're not gonna fail Taylor. With Taylor now in a medical coma, she is fighting to stay alive, but also fighting memories, trying to figure out what are real and what is not. For she has two conflicting memories, a world without Atlas and a world with Atlas. These memories are conflicting and immediately play out in a sense of her having conversations with her Uncle Irons, Uncle John. She's basically listened to him talk about the politics, about the fact that the U.S. government isn't doing enough, the fact that these capes are allowed to run around with no actual oversight, and no one is doing anything to actually utilize their powers to actually bring stability to the world. And in his mind, the capes have potential to stabilize the world and beat back the darkness that legitimately is on their doorstep. Taylor is in a medical coma for 2 weeks. In that time, her arm and leg had to be amputated because of the infections not able to be stopped in time. They were replaced with Atlas-grade prosthetics. Upon waking up, she is informed of her condition. Still dazed and confused, especially at the memories, Taylor then starts to really take what her uncle said to heart. For when they realize that the people who put her in that locker, who put her in that state, who lost her fucking leg and arm, were fucking wards of the PRT. Upset, genuinely, she pushes to have criminal charges brought up against them, but the PRT stalls them, and even stalls an investigation, trying to placate the young CEO and attempting to basically not have Atlas step into Brockton Bay and upset the status quo and balance of power. Taylor is righteously pissed, but her uncle's words help her understand that even if you can't win a battle, even if you lose one battle, it does not mean you've lost the war. Him reciting to her words of Sun Tzu, the art of war, other philosophies of great leaders, and his own personal philosophy. She accepts the PRT and even accepts that they will put, of course, great pressure on these capes and even try to placate to her. Armsmaster, of course, greatly wants to investigate their technology and has been itching to investigate their technology under the possibility of it being Tinker Tech. This is denied, of course, by the PRT and even threatened of literally having him fired and even excommunicated. They don't want to upset Atlas, who literally has a private standing army bigger than the U.S. military.
What you're seeing is advanced warfare. Atlas has the single largest standing military in the world, but we answer to no country. Unlike the government, we don't keep secrets of our capabilities. We don't sell policy, we sell power. We are a superpower for hire.
Bigger than their own troopers. They don't want to bring that kind of heat on them. Even Costa Brown stepping in to basically literally browbeat him into submission. But how does this lead into a possible intervention into Brockton Bay? Weeks pass. Months pass. Taylor, now fully pulled out of Winslow and being hired the best tutors money can buy, continues her education, as well as being literally groomed, or had been groomed by her uncle, to lead and basically be the head of the Atlas Corporation. However, as time goes on, she remembers the words of her uncle. Even her father, who complains, gets help from his daughter. Even though he himself feels that he had failed her, she reassures him that no, he has not failed her. If anything, he has helped her become the person that she is today, along with their uncle. Cousin Will, of course, being now recently discharged from the Marines on an honorable discharge, rushed back to the Atlas HQ. He may not have liked his father to a degree, but that didn't mean he doesn't love his cousin. Hearing what happened and being righteously pissed comforts her in his own way. But like I said, she remembers the words of her uncle, one of them being about power, about right and wrong.
Everybody thinks their ideas are right. That's why the people you call terrorists call themselves freedom fighters. The fundamentalists think they're right, the capitalists think they're right, the communists think they're right. And no one will ever convince anyone of anything. And all these honorable men lecturing the world from the floors of congresses and parliaments whose time has long since passed refuse to admit, publicly at least, ideas don't determine who's right. Power determines who's right. And I have the power, so I'm right.
Now having the power to actually make a difference, she begins ordering Atlas not only to continue their operations and of course protecting VIPs under their protection policies, but also continue advancing their own products, be they medical, be they anything else in between, be it technological. Everything is continuing under the Atlas brand. Taylor knows that the world needs to be reassured that something can be done. That something being taking down one of the greatest villain groups that is a major threat to anyone, the Slaughterhouse 9. She immediately orders Atlas PMCs to begin investigating where they might be. And when they do find them, Taylor immediately announces to the world that they will be conducting operations and taking a more proactive stance against the villains that the PRT and the government cannot take down. This, of course, immediately gets the PRT to come to her, try to talk her down. But when told they can take down the Slaughterhouse 9, Costa Brown, the director, immediately asks her what kind of information they have. And this kind of scene plays out.
It's a single source. Has the intel been verified?
The intel is good. Hades is meeting with his financial backers in Santorini 24 hours from now.
Mr. Irons, the protocols for mounting an assault
This man is responsible for 50,000 deaths, General. We are going in.
An operation on foreign sovereign soil, it would be an act of war without congressional approval.
Atlas is an internationally registered private company. We don't need Congress. Gentlemen, are we operational?
We're at the ready, sir. You're the trigger.
I want your team on the ground in 6 hours.
On whose authority?
On my authority!
Costa Brown, being a part of Cauldron, of course, the cabal of secret running the things behind the scenes, is taken aback at Taylor's outburst of the fact that they are operating under her authority and the fact that Atlas is, in fact, a recognized PMC group. They are going after the Slaughterhouse 9. And with a very much so tactical operation of not just regular PMCs under Atlas, but also capes, they take down the Slaughterhouse 9 in effective fashion, stopping them at their tracks. That's not to say that not one of them doesn't get away. In fact, one of them is taken by Atlas under secret orders from Taylor. As to what that could be and who that was, well, I'll let you decide on that. It isn't until the news of the Slaughterhouse 9's actual deaths hits the news airwaves that people start talking. They start realizing how actually ineffective the PRT and the government was against Atlas. Actual whole towns and states are now hiring Atlas Corporation protection. buying into the protection policy.
With Jonathan Irons, founder and CEO of Atlas International, the private military corporation responsible for hunting down and killing Hades. Congratulations, you've achieved what no government was able to.
Thank you, Wendy, but the real heroes of the day are the men and women of Atlas. I couldn't be prouder of what they accomplished out there this week.
There are rumors that the UN will offer you a seat on the Security Council. Can a life in politics be far behind?
Well, I like to get things done, so no. But look at what we've done in New Baghdad. 40 years ago, we pulled out of Iraq with that place in ruins and our tail between our legs. And now, it's a testament to what happens when you put efficiency before bureaucracy.
The last 4 years have been huge for you. In the wake of the KVA attacks, Atlas has become the world's biggest corporation. And you now preside over the world's largest standing military. So what's next for Jonathan Irons?
And even going as far as to try and get the PRT presence fully replaced with Atlas in towns and regions, seeing how effective they were against the Slaughterhouse 9. However, that doesn't mean there isn't any sort of trepidation. The government, as well as the world at large, is looking at Atlas scrutinizingly, simply because they're afraid of what might come. Now, this is where things get kind of fun. Brockton Bay has been the absolute thorn in the side of everyone. The U.S. government, the military, the law enforcement agencies, even the medical field. Hell, even the fact that it is basically not even in terms of the power structure there. Because Brockton Bay has basically been the testing bed for Cauldron for Cape Powers. The sad part is that Coyle knows that if he wants to enact his plans to take over the PRT there, he needs to be proactive in actually doing something that would get Atlas's attention. As such, he hires the Undersiders to do something that will forever change Brockton Bay forever. That being the greatest terrorist attack ever seen on U.S. soil. The terrorist attack in question is the merchants detonating bomb. One that would forever lock down a section of the city behind giant walls. A chemical bomb. A chemical tinker bomb that goes off in merchant territory. Atlas, of course, does catch wind of this and attempt to stop it. Gideon, on the ground alongside Will Irons, is immediately going into merchant territory. They're working alongside the PRT for now. Even when asked what they're doing here, they tell them we're here to stop a terrorist attack because you won't, because you allowed it to happen, or is about to allow it to happen. They go in, they attempt to stop it, but are ordered to pull back when they can't stop it. A chemical bomb, worse than chemical weapons deployed in World War I, goes off. Hundreds of thousands die, both merchant, PRT, and even some Atlas Corporation personnel, along with civilians. This leads to one of the greatest blunders in PRT history, and Atlas stepping in and even doing a full-on propaganda campaign to show that Atlas is here to help Brockton Bay.
There are some days we never forget. Moments burned into our memory until the day we die. Where were you the day everything changed? 4 years ago, one man tried to destroy our way of life. One man tried to throw the world into darkness. It felt like we could never find our way back. But we did. Together. When you were vulnerable, we gave you our strength. When you were sick, we delivered you the cure. When there was chaos, we brought you order. Stability, safety, a chance to start again. Who are we? We're the way forward.
With the Atlas Corporation actual PR and even love on the rise in Brockton Bay now, other gangs start realizing that now the permanent Atlas Corporation presence is here, they need to play it safe. As such, they send out envoys. Two of the bigger gangs do send out envoy. Lung with the ABB, and of course Kaiser with the E88, sending out envoys to Atlas Corporation. Taylor does agree to a meeting on her terms. Both come and immediately start talking with Taylor. They do agree that they will not interfere with Atlas Corporation operations. They will not hit any convoys, and any people who do are not a part of their organizations. Not gangs, organizations. Considering that in Taylor's eyes, the ABB actually is attempting to keep Asian heritage and history alive and well. With Kaiser, his part of the city actually legitimately is safe. His part of the city legitimately is the most patrolled, even if they are basically neo-Nazis. Taylor knows a necessary evil must be attained. Yet again, she remembers the words of her uncle, especially when it comes to democracy.
Democracy? Democracy. Democracy isn't what these people need. Hell, it's not even what they want. America's been running around the globe trying to install democracies in nation after nation for a century, and it hasn't worked one time. Now, why do you think that is? Because these countries don't have the most basic building blocks necessary to support a democracy. Little things like we ought to be tolerant of those who disagree with us, or we ought to be tolerant of those who worship a different god than us, or that a journalist ought to be able to disagree with a fucking president. And you think you can walk into this country based on fundamentalist religious principles, drop a couple of bombs, topple a dictator, and start a democracy? Give me a break. People don't want freedom. They want rules, boundaries, protections. From invaders and from themselves. People need a leader who can both provide the constraints and the support to keep chaos at bay. And you give them that, and they'll follow. And that's where I come in.
Taylor does have grand plans for Brockton Bay. She knows for a fact that Brockton Bay is just a powder keg waiting to happen. Just one giant avalanche ready to collapse. The chemical bomb that went off on the Merchant territory that literally had a good chunk of the city walled off was just the tip of it. The PRT, however, are completely and utterly disgraced. They are made mockeries because of the absolute failure that they couldn't stop this chemical attack. The government is now looking into them. They are just doing everything they can, and as such, the current director is asked to step down as the PRT regional director for PRT E&E, East by Northeast. Stepping in her place happens to be Coyle's civilian identity. He takes over with a proud smile. His plan worked, and now all he has to do is keep the Taylor girl happy, and maybe set up a nice deal with Atlas, because they do have advanced technology, but attempting to coerce them through means of threats or even assassination attempts in both timelines, any timelines that attempt to kill the Taylor girl, would mean immediate militaristic reaction by the Atlas PMCs, making Brockton Bay into a police state. So in his power, he basically plays it safe. He does have the capes, of course, go after gangs. However, as for the E88 and the ABB, they leave them alone for now. He knows the Atlas Corporation, or at least in this case Taylor, is going to deal with them one way or another. It's just a matter of time. Now with new factions in place, and of course the Atlas Corporation prestige and even love on the rise, the PRT at this point, along with their capes, have to do all they can to basically cover their image. They fell off the horse. They allowed atrocity to happen. It will not happen again. Dragon, of course, is a little suspicious.
They are planning an attack. He told me everything.
What kind of attack?
Power plants all over the world. They wanted me to compromise the security systems.
Where are they planning on hitting?
Seattle, Paris, Tokyo. Thousands will die. We have to tell someone.
No. We have to tell everyone. It's okay, it's all right. I'm gonna take care of this right now.
But before she can do anything, there is an alert. The Dragon Slayers were attacked. Atlas Corporation PMCs found the Dragon Slayers' locations and immediately got to work, taking them out. Upon discovering that Dragon was an AI, well, in Taylor's mind, that's just an asset. Someone who can be used for Atlas Corporation's benefit. And as such, Dragon now has a new master. And her kill code is changed to a control code. One that is hard-coded in her to obey Atlas Corporation, not to betray Atlas Corporation, and most of all, never to betray Taylor or any sitting CEO of the Atlas Corporation. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the pieces being set. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was basically my pitch for, of course, a Taylor Advanced Warfare. Yes, it does have the summoning aspects, and yes, it does have a lot of other things going on with it, especially when it comes to certain aspects. Now, I didn't bring in Cauldron into this because, honestly speaking, Cauldron, I'd rather let you guys decide what Cauldron would try and do. Did they assassinate Jonathan Irons? Are they keeping an eye on Taylor, waiting to basically assassinate her should she become too much of a threat? How will her controlling Dragon affect Armsmaster and Dragon herself? How will now an Atlas presence in Brockton Bay affect the balance of power, especially with the quote-unquote peace they have between the ABB and the E88? How will the PRT, ENE, now under Cole's control, actually attempt to handle other things, especially in this new balance of power? I leave that to you, ladies and gentlemen. And if you have any ideas on how you would handle this story, let me know in the comments section. I legitimately want to know. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to help out the channel and even the content we produce, check out the links down below, because our partners do help out every time you buy something from them. And, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Airsoft Al, and if you'll excuse me a second... Where'd she go? Aha! Abby, you little bitch! Till next time, stand still, you demented Looney Tune!